First of all, I want to tell you, Tony Stubblefield, I'm glad he's back on the staff, man. I know that.
Not as glad as I am.
I bet, right?
No, it's great to have him back. He's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And we've been together 11 years, and obviously went for 3 here, but he's back, and he's a heck of a basketball coach, heck of a friend. I love his work ethic. He's great. I'm so glad he's back. Can't imagine.
Yeah, it's good to see him back. Yeah. Coach, you've had unparalleled success. Like for 25 seasons, you've been on the winning side of things. What's been the key to your success for the longevity?
Good players. We've had really good players. Consistency in my coaching staff. Guys have been with me a long time. Brian Fish over 20, Kevin McKenna over 20. You mentioned Coach Stubblefield's been at 11, coming back for his 12th season. Josh Jameson, his 13th season. Mike Menniga's been with me 11 now. So my staff, whether it was at Creighton or now here, I've had guys that have been loyal to me and stuck with me a long time.
You guys had an interesting year last year with the injuries, and I read where you were looking for some upperclassmen to come in and kind of stabilize things. Talk about that process in the roster construction this season.
Well, we've had a bad stretch here, Stephen. Last 3-4 years of injuries. Last year got really bad. We got down to 6 guys, scholarship players, and so we had 3 freshmen on the team. One missed the entire season. Another one missed parts of the season. So we wanted to get a little older. We lost 2 really good seniors, in Folly Dante and Jermaine Cousinard, who we rode into the NCAA tournament, and so I knew we had to get some experience to fill that gap. Our freshmen are now sophomores, so that should help us a little bit older. But college basketball right now, with still in the COVID, 5-year guys, you got to be old. I mean, you look at the Sweet 16 teams, the Elite 8 teams, they're all old.
Mm-hmm.
They've got older players, and so next year we'll get back to a little bit more normal situation where we only have 4 classes to choose from instead of 5, and it'll get back where freshmen play a much bigger role. But this year it's still important to be old and have those grad transfers.
Yeah, you talked about your freshmen becoming sophomores. One of them, Jackson Shellstad, looks to be an awfully talented player. Can you talk to our fans about him?
Yeah, he's really skilled. He's quick. Shoots the 3 well. He's gotten a little bigger physically, so I think defensively he'll be improved. His basketball instincts are pretty good. His work ethic is good. He's a competitor, not afraid to take the big shots. So, no, he'll make a big jump. He'll have a good year. Hopefully, he can stay healthy. He missed a few games last year, so hopefully he can stay healthy. But he's really a good player. He shoots it well. He's got a good feel for things. Guys like playing with him. You know how important that is for a point guard. Guards. Your bigs got to want to play with them. They got to get them the ball when they're open, and he's got a pretty good feel for things.
I'm going to pull back a little bit and talk about the travel. You guys leaving the Pac-12, come to the Big Ten. I've read that you've done some extensive research in terms of what you can do to help your players with this travel situation. Can you shed some light on that?
Well, we've contacted a bunch of NBA teams from the West Coast that have to travel, even some NFL teams that have to travel, and their first comments always, "Ooh, that going east to west is really tough." That's so we are a little concerned about it, but Oregon's out there in the Great Northwest. They call it that for a reason. We're out there, so whether it was going to Arizona State, those were all 3-hour flights. Now we're maybe going 4, 5 to some. But so it changes it a little bit. But I think a lot of it's how we approach it. We had the mountain schools, and they were always talking about the altitude of Colorado and Utah, and that got into our heads. And now I'm trying not to let the travel get into their heads. It is part of it. They all have aspirations of going to the NBA and playing, or going overseas and playing. There's a lot of travel. So I said, you're just getting used to it. And but we do have 5 trips. We play Penn State and Ohio State on one trip, the 2 Michigan schools on another. Wisconsin and Iowa on a trip, Minnesota on a single, and then the conference tournament in Indy. So we do have 5 trips we'll make out east.
Okay. And then what's the process like for your coaching staff to integrate 14 new programs that you have to scout, that you have to prepare for? What is that process like?
That's a great question, because that's one that I think is really hasn't been on the forefront that should be. We got 14 one-time scouts, with 14 programs that we've played in the tournaments. We played Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan State, but Michigan's got a new coach. So, 14 one-time scouts. And then on our side, Washington's got a new coach and USC's got a new coach. So the only one we're familiar with is Mick. The rest of them will be all new scouts. So the 14 one-time scouts, and then getting ready for Washington twice and USC twice that we haven't faced those coaching staffs will be unique. And then, Mick is Mick. They're going to play the same way, so we know what to expect there. But the other 18 conference games will all be new to us.
What do you see as the major differences coming from the Pac-12 and style of play compared to what you anticipate the Big Ten is going to be?
Oh, I don't think it's, people have asked that. We've played those teams.
Yep.
You play them in the pre-conference tournaments, and then you play them in the NCAA tournaments. So I don't think it's that much of a difference. Big Ten may be a little bit more physical. The analytics say we've played at a faster pace than a lot of the Big Ten schools, but I don't think there's going to be that much difference. Like I said, we play those schools.
Yep.
It's not like we've never seen them.
Sure.
We've played Wisconsin 3 times. We've played Iowa a couple times, 3 times. We've played Michigan 3 times, Michigan State once. So we have played those schools. It will just be different going to their arenas, which, the crowds will be a little different. The attendance figures in the Big Ten are better. So, that will be different. It'll be a lot colder than what we're used to. Other than going to Washington State or Colorado, we don't have much cold weather.
Sure. Is there one player that stood out in pre-conference that's kind of surprised you, that's taken a step up that was unexpected?
Oh, not unexpected. I like the jump, KJ Evans has made from freshman to sophomore. Bam has really worked hard. Tracy was a starter for us last year. Has come back, worked pretty hard. Nate's been really good. Nate Biddle. He only played in 5 games last year. He broke his wrist. I think he can have a really good year. He's been really good. So, those are some returners that I think have made a big step. Our new guys, are pretty much what we thought they would be. Good players. Our transfers. TJ Bamba, we played against, at Washington State. Brandon Angel, we played against Stanford. We knew what we were getting. Raheem Moss from Toledo, we knew he was a MAC all-defensive team, and he's been that. Supreme Cook has been injured. We had to get his knee scoped, and he's been out, but the few practices that he was rebounding and defending really hard and finishing around the basket. So those guys that we brought in, pretty much what we thought they would be. And got in a freshman who I think is going to be really good. Jamari Phillips is really talented, but he's just doesn't know what he doesn't know, at 18.
Right.
And, but he's going to be a good player. His God-given ability is really good. He's going to be good.
Okay. And then for our Big Ten viewers that haven't seen a lot of the Oregon Ducks play, when you guys are hitting on all cylinders, what does that look like on both ends of the floor?
Well, up until the last few years with injuries, we've always pressed, and defensively changed things up a lot. We're going to throw a lot of different things defensively with traps and that. Offensively, we're going to push the ball. We played a pretty quick pace, but we will run a lot of sets in the half court. So I'd like to think our guys play hard. We've always been a decent rebounding team. That's one area that we're going to have to really focus on in the Big Ten. Some of the offensive rebounding numbers, but some of these teams, they really pound the boards offensively. So our defensive rebounding is going to have to be really good so we can get out and run. So a lot of things to focus on just from what the numbers say in previous years of our adjustment or small adjustments to the Big Ten. But, you know, hopefully our pressing style, some of the things we do, if we can keep everybody healthy in our depth, you know, I hope our style will be a little different for some of those teams.